Is the mic on? Good afternoon. Welcome to our First Congregational's 2025 Poetry Fest. We have four unique, highly talented poets that are going to read for us today. Their names are there on the marquee. And we also have a sign-up sheet out there if you would care to share something. Sign up before our intermission. We're going to have the poets, a little music, and then we'll have an intermission where we have some snacks. We've got some gluten-free water in the little room outside there, so you can help yourself with that. I'm going to start you off with a poem by Edward Lear. As far as I know, no relation to Norton Lear. The Owl and the Pussycat. The owl and the pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea-green boat. They took some honey and plenty of money wrapped up in a 5-pound note. The owl looked up at the moon above and played on a small guitar. "Oh, lovely pussy, oh, pussy, my love, what a beautiful pussy you are. You are, what a beautiful pussy you are." Pussy said, "Owl, you elegant fowl, how charmingly sweet you sing. Oh, let us be married. Too long we have tarried. But what shall we do for a ring?" So they sailed away for a year and a day to the land where the bong tree grows. And there in a wood, a piggy-wig stood with a ring at the end of his nose. His nose, his nose, his nose, a ring at the end of his nose. Owl said, "Are you willing to sell for a shilling your ring?" Said the piggy, "I will." So they took it away and were married that day by a turkey who lives on the hill. They dined on mince and slices of quince, which they ate with a runcible spoon. And hand in hand, at the edge of the sand, they danced by the light of the moon. The moon, the moon, the moon, they danced by the light of the moon. And now, our first person coming up is going to be the... Thank you. Our first person coming up is going to be Fred Christ. He's going to play a piece on the bagpipe, and it is inspired by this poem that he would like me to read before he plays. This piece has a bunch of old Scotch words in it, so if I'm not pronouncing it properly, my apologies to all the dead Scotsmen out there. Pibroch of Donegal Dule. Pibroch of Donegal Dule, Pibroch of Dule, wake up the wild voice anew, summon clan council, come away, hearken to the summons, come in your war away, gentles and commons. Come from the deep glen, from mountains so rocky, the war pipe and pennon, art interlocky, come every hill plaid, every true heart that wears one, come every steel blade, strong hand that bears one. Leave unattended the herd, the flock without shelter. Leave the corpse uninterred and the bride at the altar. Leave the deer, leave the steer, leave the nest and the badger. Come with your fighting gear. Come, the forests are rended. Come waves, come when the natives are stranded. Faster, come faster, faster and faster. Chief and vassal, page and groom, tenant and master. Fast they come, see how they gather. Wide waves, the eagle's plumb, blended with the heather. Cast your plaids, draw your blades, forward each man set. Pinoch of Donegal, kneel for the onset. And now, Fred. And wasn't that enough to stir your heart and make you want to go to war? The Pipers were the bravest people in their regiment. They were always marched out first to lead the company into battle, so they had to be brave. Up next, the only thing that's more stirring than that is the enchanting Chris DeLucas, who will charm us with some poems.
Husbands. Terry's loses the caps to things. She's forever fitting bits of foil on bottles of olive oil and vinegar. Sandra's does all the dishes, and the rule is if it's your job, you get to do it your way in your own time. She doesn't nag, knowing how it feels, since her ex nagged her. Luckily, since she cooks, the other rule is if she says, I need the kitchen clean, he cleans it. Janie's ex didn't do anything except make a lot of money and change the oil in both cars. She was teaching half-time, doing the rest full-time. When it was over, she promptly paved the backyard of her new place. He now has a gardener, a cleaner, a pool guy, and the kids on alternate weekends. My ex didn't earn a living for 5 of the 9 years, but he made a good lasagna and could fix anything except me. Like Sandra's ex with her, he didn't love me enough, though unlike hers, he never phrased it as such. The fact was, the ex and I are too alike. Overly serious, always thinking everything has to be finished first. My new is the one to insist on date nights. He wants to cuddle before the dishes and go on trips ahead of retirement. He has managed to loosen me up. My only regret is not meeting him first. But cliché would argue if I had, I might not be thanking my lucky stars every single day. I try to remember that when he uses metal on Teflon, when he won't clean the gasket of the washing machine or squeegee the corners of the shower door, when he won't hang up towels or scrub his night guards. The stains and the odors, well, they're nothing, surely, compared to living with me. I'm reading about couples right now, specifically my husband and me, but I'm going in reverse order. So in that poem, we're already married. In this poem, we are not. It is called Patio Tomatoes. It's a 3-part poem. Part 1. My boyfriend leaves his patio tomatoes at my apartment at around the 3-year mark, just when I'm realizing he may never commit. This arrangement is supposed to be temporary while we're out of town, so my neighbor could water, since he doesn't know any of his neighbors well enough to ask, which maybe should be a sign. We return from the trip. I am still ringless, and he leaves the tomatoes with me. I decide this is a metaphor. Anything involving commitment is my problem. On cue, winter blows in, and the plant dies. I bring in the last of the fruits and set them in a bowl. I think patio tomatoes, tomatoes designed for a person lacking a patch of earth, a person whose level of settledness is a patio. Biting into one, I noticed the skin is thick and tough, the taste unremarkable. Patio tomato. While it needs care, it is not confined by its roots. I carry it easily to the trash. Part 2. The plant has been gone 3 weeks, and the fruit's just as long in their bowl. I'm keeping my distance. Once I stop calling, my phone starts ringing. Sometimes I don't answer, even turn off my machine. Let him wonder where I am. I mean to write about the tomatoes, to record their decay as it occurs, but I set them on top of the fridge and forget them until I'm up there retrieving a vase for roses. The tomatoes have collapsed and darkened. I must have left 3 store-boughts in the mix. There are stickers bearing the SKU 4664. One store-bought is red and plump, passable even. It could be at the grocery, overlooked. It attaches by the stem to another tomato that has shriveled and grown a white collar of fuzz. The healthy tomato appears to have sucked the life from this one. A vampire tomato. The patio tomatoes, they look sun-dried, only black and crisp, as if next they will turn to ash. Part 3. Come February, he goes and ruins the whole metaphor by marrying me. Unfortunately for this poem, we've been happy ever since. The morning of our 3rd anniversary, I rise at 5 to write. We've moved from the apartment to our house, and yes, I wrapped the bowl of tomatoes in newspaper when I packed. They've been taking up the back quarter of a desk drawer ever since. Only the stickers remain unchanged. In fact, without that dried-up vampire stem, they'd be unrecognizable. Yet I seem unable to let them go. I begin with the mold, the solidified collar, the puffy trails that look like miniature storm clouds. No, maybe I should start with the dark rings that stain the bowl, ghosts of the fruit's original shape. Frankly, a photograph would do better justice. But who wants to look at a bowl of 3-year-old tomatoes going on 4? Who keeps such a thing? And how could I explain this to anyone who has a practical use for early mornings? Someone who is cooking stew in a crock pot, folding laundry, or working out? I was up early today, wondering which to describe, the fruits or the mold. I kept a bowl of tomatoes so I could write about them as they rotted. Before I read my last poem, I just want to say thank you to everyone who helped organize this event, my fellow readers, the church, the musicians, Tim. Thank you. Last poem. This starts with an epigraph, exact words of my husband. He asked me one day, "Are you ever afraid you'll accidentally say, 'I love you,' to a telemarketer or a customer service person when you're about to hang up?" And I said, no, that's not something I've ever worried about. But I have thought a lot about how often we say those words. I love you. A phrase thrown out casually over landlines between cell phone towers, sometimes garbled on a faulty connection, sometimes truncated, mainly spoken when guaranteed to be returned. You too. Guilty of overuse. I say it often, knowing any opportunity to say it may be my last. I could die, or they could, but I try not to say it with that in mind. I say it because I mean it, and out of habit, and also, by now, it's expected. And to leave it unsaid would be more significant than simply to say it once more. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Her love poems are marvelous. They remind me of one I wrote when I was in high school. Love poem 1372. We met in the summer of '73. She was in love, but not with me. And now, the highly esteemed Terry Breeden. Yes, that was dramatic emphasis, not because I couldn't call your name up for a moment.
Hi, I'm Terry. Thank you for having me. And for celebrating Poetry Month, we can definitely use a little more poetry in the world, especially right now. My poems are not as funny as Krista's, and in fact, they're maybe not funny at all. But I brought some poems from past, present, and future, just kind of to celebrate the movement of time. So this first one is past, and I'm really glad it's past, because some things, it's good to be done with. This is called 72-Hour Suicide Hold. A squirrel in a live trap, eyes wide, claws scrabbling at the bars, unkempt hair, nails bitten to blood. I watch my child whimper into her pillow. Hours fold into days, blank white walls press inward. The only escape is to the bathroom down the hall, which requires a formal request and a curt nurse escort. Then back to the cubicle, the railed bed, to what is called safety. The fluorescent glare washes out color, or was she already this pale, this flattened? Shaking and keening, she crouches on the bed. Throat closed, I curl my palm over her scapula. The knobs of her spinal column march down her flesh, and my fingers trace the crown of each bone, pressing through the thin hospital gown. She groans, and I croon back. Each confined hour heightens her desperation. Outwardly calm, I am undone by the wreckage of my child. Before she was born, we meant to give her everything. Now our wish is narrow. Therapy, a shower, her own clothing, home. When we request a discharge, the doctor accuses us of not caring if our child lives. He tells us he intends to prolong the hold indefinitely. Bile rises in my throat, and my own claws extend. It's really hard when anyone, but especially somebody you're close to, somebody you love, gives up on themselves. And you feel for them, but you also sometimes just want to shake them, because as somebody who loves them, you can see how great they are. And so this poem is about that feeling. This is called Looking Down. You can see right at the edges of things, the degradation, a chip here, a crevice there, a loss of perspective, or perhaps a gain. The flaws that form us are glaring in this light, rising into view like pillars, a temple of imperfections, our inadequacies writ large, and we think everyone will see them, see the wreckage that is us. What we don't remember, caught here in our own fragility, is that the only people watching us are those in love. The ones who already hold us in their hearts in a state of unconditional positive regard. And what we don't notice, focused in on the shadows within each jagged crack, is the sky, vivid and endless, an expansive canvas, a mirror in which we could see our whole selves reflected if we only had the wherewithal to look up. And we're still in the past here. This is one of my many election poems, because I have a few. This is called A Country of Arsonists. It's like waiting in a hotel room after a mandatory evacuation from your house. The only information from the news, and that never comes fast enough. You need to know now what's burning. Which acres of sage blister to ash, which pines flicker like torches in the wind-driven night. Your home will withstand the blaze or fall. Photos curling into their fetal selves before sifting into the crackling air. Friends and family want to know how you are doing. You have no answer beyond the heartless waiting, only to find out the fire began by arson. Not one, but over 72 million of your neighbors and countrymen, women too, all marching in step, wielding your flag like another weapon, crying out for a bigger burn, not noticing through their shouts the rising welts on their very own flesh. Thank you. It's kind of hard times right now. There's a lot of divisiveness, the economy, the political culture. So this is a poem about hard times. Forecast for tomorrow. Some days bluster like an afternoon wind, funnel obstacles westward, scour the land clean. Though dust covers everything, it's fresh dust, old thrust aside by new as the wind sweeps through. Clocks spin faster, words come clipped or not at all. Things get done. Bleary, I wake each dawn, beg, let me have an afternoon wind day today. Let me scour and be scoured, let things get done or blow so far they no longer need doing. Instead, I get snow days, cold days. I get long days and slow days. I get showerless days, fingers slammed in the car door days, like today. Today is another inside of a sun-warmed plastic diaper pail day. An unwashed crotch day, windless and sullen today squats in the corner demanding ice cream, tearing threads from the carpet with dirty fingernails. If I give in, tomorrow will be more of the same. A cleaning gummed ice cream spots from the new carpet in the house we're hoping to sell kind of day. A fallen arches stretch mark day. I dream of yesterday. Not my yesterday, but a back porch yesterday. The yesterday of sleeping in, maybe a class at 11, then lunch. The yesterday so short on death and mayhem that its front page read, "Schools meet yearly progress goals," and "Ice skating ring opens today." The warless, jobless, pre-children writing poetry till dawn, expanding economy yesterday. That crock pot, fresh bread day, smelling of sage after the rain, damp but mudless. That perfect yesterday stretching into a sleek runway of first kiss, hammock under the tree, tomorrows. Only please, I need it today. And now we're getting into present. This is called frayed edges. Some things you can't fix with scissors, can't hem to a better length. Some things stay broken. It doesn't stop you from trying, though, from threading the needle, adding just one more stitch, that flash of bright fiber amidst the weave, a closure where before there was a gap. And in a way, it works, this industry. The needle sliding through and back, the shadow of thread following, always following, fashioning a line of improvements. Some form, some function, enough of each, and you might feel a bit of relief, because the broken things, if you're lucky, don't keep you entirely from hope. And this is present tense of, this is a parallel poem to the first one I read, the suicide poem. This is present tense of that same child. Translations. What happens when literature is revised to the original text? Entire paragraphs crossed out, drafts crumpled in the trash, words reordered. Little left to reference what came before. Is what we remove in the pursuit of survival and beauty, in the awakening of less or more, is it worth the blurring of our past, now invisible to the world? As his shoulders broaden and his voice lowers, I wonder about his younger self, the little girl who curled into me while we read, who cried, "Watch me, Mama," for failed cartwheels and tying shoes, who said when she grew up she'd be a writer just like me. She's transformed now, like the first draft of a poem, restructured so something new can be written. What soft hardens, stem brittling as the fruit ripens, falls finally into the grass, learns to bruise and keep rolling. Evolution happens this way. What came before re-becomes, transforming into something new, something better suited to the environment of the self. Jax. The name suits him. The empathetic J, it sounds soft as the skin of a woman's underarm, the letter for joy and journey. The hard crossed arms of the X, a man's defiance in the face of a world trying to force gender into checked boxes, true or false, no short answer, not even multiple choice, but he will write an essay anyway. And inside, if you bother to look, the yawning mouth of an A, an opening, a doorway that still might lead anywhere. Thank you. And this is my last poem. This is my future poem for today. I'm an optimist, still and hopefully always. So this one's called The Next Pandemic. Kindness is super hot, and cruelty's not. Kindness spreads like moss and moisture, boisterous, blazing. So praise each other. How fine he looks in tuxedo cat shirts. How sharp he snaps his fingers. How sweetly we say poetry together tonight in front of another mic. Today it rains, the scent of sage permeates the air, and deer paws mid-brows to nod and bow. Their early horns, mere tufts of velvet, their noses black and shiny, enormous ears flickering as they lick one more weed from their lips. And the blue jays crackle through cherry tree leaves, waiting for the hard green pods to become. And we are here, present amidst it all. We smell the sage, hear the jays, watch the newly minted buck lift his head as though asking a question. We don't always answer right, but we know how to. Like we know that righteous starts with right, but often it's better to turn left. We know we can drive faster straight, but that curves are more fun. And we know how to love and how to live and how to give a little more than we think we can to others and ourselves till we're experts at it. How we know what we know, that this world is made of us, that each action has a consequence, that the consequence of compassion is more of the same, spreading like a plague of praise and pleasure, holding itself upright. Another bud blooming, another person proving that kindness is super hot.
Thank you, Terry. So, some years ago, Robert Frost wrote a poem about the end of the world. He called it Fire and Ice. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say the world will end in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if I had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. And now, our own congregational angel, Debbie, will come and play the harp for us.
I'm Debbie Christ, and I go to this church and play harp here once in a while. I'm going to play a piece today that was written by a composer who was born in Cuba and spent a good part of his childhood in Venezuela. Cuba's flat, and he got into Venezuela, and as the boat approached, he noticed all the mountains behind Caracas. I've never been there. I've never seen them. But what he did notice is that all the pop artists, all the people in recordings, and you heard on the radio, the famous people played to a background of harp music, and it was harp players from folk harps of the plains of Venezuela. So he was enamored with that music, went to elementary school there, and the talent shows there'd be 3 or 4 boys, and it was always the boys that played the harp in South America, at least at that time. This is the late 50s. And they would play harp, and he got one of them to teach him. Well, he wrote a song, and this will be played next Saturday at Reno Pops with the whole orchestra and 20-some harps. So if you want to come, please come and listen to all this. It's called Llano, which means it's L-L-A-N-O, but it means plains. So although he was impressed by the mountains when he first got to Venezuela, it was the plains that really struck home.
She may deny it, but I'm certain she's an angel, because only an angel could play that well. Just ask her husband or her son. They're sure to confirm. They will if they know what's good for them. And next, we have Wayne Carlson, related to the 75th President of the United States, William T. Carlson, or the late night talk show host, Johnny Carlson. No. Here's Wayne Carlson.
When I first read a poem at Jazz and Poetry in Carson City several years ago, I was asked if I was a published poet. And I had to say no, but then I thought about it and thought, well, actually, I typed it up on a piece of paper, so it must count. And that's still the way it is. So this one is called Poetry's Debris. Scraps tucked in books like bookmarks randomly placed between unread pages or carelessly tossed into desk drawers to be rifled later when the muse sleeps. Vague searches for ideas to start anew, these are the detritus to inspire poets, to conjure words to fill a page. Rhyme or none, line follows line, hiding and revealing the poet's mind, sometimes bold and clear or full of obfuscation, to lead the reader to puzzle through meaning. Debris such as these scraps form a thought-captured library, unorganized, but there for discovery. Thus the poet writes, tosses, and rewrites, seeking sense-making, word after word, poem after poem, exploration like constructing sandcastles. They need water to adhere for structure. Once finished, another one rises from the debris. For a long time, I was focused on writing lyrics and songwriting. And so I did write quite a bit of songs. And then with poetry, I learned it doesn't rhyme anymore like songs. And so this one's called Unsung and Song. To a poet, words sing, songs of life in prose and rhyme, the music of written words laid bare on a page, to be read silently or recited so others can hear the cadence, calling them together to share insights, ideas, and interpretation. To a songwriter, lyrics and beats, melodies and chords emerge to capture minds, ears, and vision, flowing waves in the mind, softly or loudly saying, listen, this will embrace your being, send your soul soaring, or rattle your resistance. Last year, we had spring snow, just like the other day. And I wrote this poem called Spring Snow. Today you fell softly, as usual, wet, of course, laying down a light blanket. Cold settled today, not enough to freeze, but plenty chilly, denying spring growth. It's April already. March was a lion. April should be showers and sunshine days. But nature remains in charge of us in spite of our wish to be in control of destiny. Despite innovation, nature reins us in, asserting forces we lack, keep us humbled. And around the same time, I wrote this one called White Cold. Furious wind gusts across peaks slide down snow-laden slopes, blinding anyone or anything in its path, and urgency carried in fury. As winds sought to swamp the hills, letting up only to regather its breath, then spew its gusts again. Sheltered inside, I watched wind-blown white cold particles slam to the ground in a pile after pile, until a foot-high berm sat on the railing and layered the landscape in white. Why the hurry? Why is the hurry? I wondered. Is it the clouds' cold accumulation, too heavy to hold? Suddenly losing grip, or did another Mother Earth pull it down, a blanket to cover up emerging spring one last time? Let me rest a bit longer before bursting. I was in Oregon, and I went in Portland to the Japanese garden. And it happened to be a drizzly day, which is typical in Portland. Sunshine is rare. Summer is the only time you get it. From October to April, it's usually overcast or drizzly. But I was in the Japanese garden, where there's a beautiful rose garden. And that's what this is about, red rose in the rain. Early morning, steady drizzle in the Japanese rose garden. I walk through as gentle rain leaves tears on the roses, droplets clinging to petals as if to say, I'm resting now. Please take a refreshing sip. It'll nourish you. I spot a red rose standing brightly, surrounded by leaves of green, hosting droplets. The red rose, framed by green, glows and glistens, inhaling the cool mist, drinking it in to quench its thirst, while I find nourishment in the colors, the mist, and quiet. Peace only a garden such as this brings to a too busy world. I rest my being in the watercolored red rose, resting in a misty garden of roses and rain. I tuck the picture into my heart-mind to savor the image as I walk on to more roses in the rain. Thank you. In that it's spring, I have another one about spring called Blossoms. In spring, blossoms burst, having lain dormant beneath snow or fallen leaves, those guardians of the soul. Snowdrops awaken earliest, a white bloom display drawing in bees. Green shoots support the fragrant flowers, hosting them skyward on pedestals to reign gloriously over fresh earth. But why in nature does dormancy retreat, enabling the dynasty to grow and thrive? What magic attracts the servant bees to spread pollen on other natural beauty? Should we celebrate the blossoms or the bees? We observers breathe in the fragrance, dust, gaze at the beauty, awakening our hearts. Bees drone on, spreading pollen. Others see blooms and inhale a sweet aroma. Several years ago, I was in Vermont, and I came across a place called Robert Frost Vermont Stream Walk. And each station along the stream had a poem of Robert Frost to read as you walk along. So I was inspired by this to write this poem. Still, Flowing, tumbling over stones and moss, you go. Your colors yellow, red, and gold, from leaves drowned in your flow. I pause to listen and gaze, frost stories serenely standing by, without knowing its meaning, feeling the stillness and beauty. No time, nor space, nor moment can capture any share of quiet, solemn peace standing there. This one's called Fog. It's quiet this morning. A fog drops low, shielding vision. Even birds sit silently perched on branches, peering into the gray, translucent dawn. No bright color display, signaling dawn or dusk. I step onto the deck, breaking the silence with each step, as if to say, I see you anyway. Your face hidden behind a curtain or cloud, dampened with dew-like tears, trying to brighten the day that wants to remain unseen. And I'll stop with this one. It's called Invisible, the Wind I Feel. Invisible, the wind I feel. It moves in ways I see only after its effect is felt. A leaf flutters in place, a branch bends and bows. Nature dancing quietly. Sometimes it rears and swirls, wreaking havoc in its wake. Still, I cannot see it move, nor hear its undulating waves, until an object reveals its effect. Life itself contains such waves, invisible, silent, still, and moving me toward next things, next experiences, next challenges. Invisible, the waves I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne, who apparently did not found Carlson City to the south of us, our state's capital. And next we have Jesse James Ziegler. He is a modest man who would not tell you that he is the poet laureate of Reno for 2024 and 2025, but I'm impressed that and he does remarkable work with youngsters at our center. Jesse James Ziegler.
So please excuse my outdoorsy attire. I just came from another event out on the Steamboat Ditch Trail through Nevada Humanities with a soil scientist and myself talking about soil from a scientific perspective and from a literary perspective. And it got me to thinking in my selection of pieces to share as we sit in a house of worship that ultimately anywhere can become a house of worship. A tavern on a Monday night at an open mic can be a house of worship. Our center, a local community center for marginalized populations and people who are just looking to exist in the world and love who they love, that is a place of worship. Here is a place of worship. Out in nature can be a place of worship. A cafe, a library, many places that are under fire right now because of the current administration. So all 5 pieces that I was planning to share have something to do with faith. So I want you to think about whatever it is that you hold sacred in your lives, whatever it is that matters to you most, that is both worth living for and worth dying for. I want you to think about those things and such things as these as I'm sharing. The first piece I'm going to share is called I'll Never Have All the Answers, and I wrote it for today. So it's an original piece that's meant for this festival to be shared. I'll never have all the answers. Epigraph. Break me down and put me back together, from the song Surrender. Feeling outnumbered, outvoted, and unheard, longing to be noticed, held in the promise of forever, overwhelmed, hoping to be uplifted and stirred, singing to adversaries causing collapse. Never. Knowing more than mere believing in, an advocate, yearning for respite, sanctuary, and sense of relief, sages and warriors become opposition to laugh at it, and abiding love and peace which supersede belief. Being all in on everything helping me wish to go on, rather than things which inhibit or simply get by. I'm drawn to nature, community, laughter, song, wilderness of spirit, and healing release of good cry. We are simultaneously unique among all creation, specks in outer space, mere droplets in the ocean, capable of reconciliation, redemption, sanctification, and purely heartfelt, fully surrendered devotion. That's one. You can count them down on your hands, so you know when I'm done. Unless you're like my grandfather, who was blown out of a tank in World War II, and he used to joke with me, how many kids have grandfathers that can teach their grandkid fractions using just their hand? He had a good sense of humor in spite of the pain he was in. Thank you to any of you in the room who served. This is called Surrounded by the Deep. A friend of mine that I knew through a closer friend suffered a tragic death by drowning. And so I wrote this piece because at the time that I found out of her demise, we were doing a unit on Jonah at my church. And so this was inspired by Jonah 2:5, which is, the waters closed in over me to take my life. The deep surrounded me. Weeds were wrapped about my head. According to the English Standard Version. Surrounded by the deep. When we are pulled under to the depths of everything, into the realm of darkness, below the grave where the dead dwell, we become drawn in to the utterly silent. Words escape us to shape a new horizon. The sky becomes indistinguishable from the abyss of violence and perpetual melancholy. We may realize we can go no further. The path ends. The way ceases. The pendulum is swung beyond our reach, and we must move out of our own way for it to swing back. It is not us who swings. We are relentlessly pursued until we turn. Being fully known and fully loved are not mutually exclusive. We may become convinced by circumstances we've had a hand in, which in turn have had a hand in us, that we must remain hidden somehow, surrounded by lies in order to be worthy of love, while the deepest parts of us cry out in hope that it isn't one or the other, but yes and. When we are pulled under to the depths of everything, it is there we encounter our center, into the realm of light above the sky where the living dwell. We become drawn in to the utterly silent. Words escape us to behold the new horizon. Finally, we see the silence for what it is, a chance to be fully known and fully loved, a chance to choose a path grounded in hope, a chance to plant trees rooted in forgiveness. We see better in the silence. We hear better in the darkness. So we become opened up to the epiphany that we cannot be too far gone to return, too far lost to be found, or too much to remain. We become opened up to the truth we cannot run away from ourselves. We cannot remain hidden and seek, but we can try to hide and still be sought. We must stay still to be moved. We must be moved to remain still. We must allow the depths within us to remain in hope, and the depths which surround us to fall away in silence, to return in humility, and remain in love. Thank you. This third piece is called Breaking You Open. These are my prayers over everyone in the room. I pray you find the wonder and the strength to ask from this one finite, beautiful life for more than your wildest dreams. For this world will call upon you to lessen yourself for the sake of a cozy mirage. But the one who made the world will call upon you to give everything you are, everything you were intended to be, everything you will ever have for the sake of the world. The Creator and the created deserve that in return. I pray you find helpers as needed and become one as wanted, that you find true friends who serve and submit to each other, knowing when to be delicate and when to be stern, both with compassionate openness and disciplined boundaries. I pray you are loved so vigorously and abundantly, the echo of your heartbeat dances over the peaks and the valleys while you're washing the world's feet and knocking the dust off of your own. I pray the shots fired at you ricochet off your protective armor and graze the eyelashes of the ones who pulled the triggers enough to reveal their lack of authenticity while allowing them to live another day, extending mercy, though it is not reciprocated. I pray you find your rhythm and your flow while being fearless and deviating from either. I pray you discover your comfort zone is the enemy of growth. For the only expediency in wisdom is a rapid succession of grief and loss. I pray you meet both with a peace in letting go. I pray the music you've heard has broken you open. I pray your first words each day are spoken in hope, and this life you've endured will richly reward you, intended attacks blocked before coming toward you. I pray the medicine you find in the daily grind works better to help you unwind and heal your heart, soul, and mind far better than what's prescribed. I pray you notice the clouds and how they dance in the sky. Each day uncovered shrouds romance your sense of why. Living out loud gives your inner child the chance to fly. I pray your doubts and your can'ts are bid so long. Farewell, goodbye. I pray each breath you take is received as a gift. You're able to pause with locked lids and in clarity sift through what is meant to be laid down and what is meant to uplift. I pray you live just long enough to fulfill your greatest purpose and calling without seeing bitterness and resentment become your tour guide tandem, leading the way to despair and mediocrity. I pray your guardian angel is aware of your forwarding address every time you move, that you feel worthy of love regardless life's mess without ever needing to prove. I pray you are welcomed. I pray you are accepted. I pray you belong, that you find what you're looking for as well as the things you never knew you always needed. I pray you are needed and appreciated. I pray you are given the opportunities to be patient and kind. I pray you are given the opportunity to be you, the chance to be you, the ability to be you, the courage to be you, the space, place, and grace to be you. I pray you feel held and homemade while you are here and yet realize you were made for a home much like this one, only better. Not far off from here, only closer somehow. I pray you find your spot and that you're able to settle down there, but that you never have to settle for anything less than you deserve, anything less than everything you were meant for, which coincidentally happens to be the singular approach capable of reaching beyond your wildest dreams and exactly what the entire world, including you, deserves in return. Thank you. Two more. We're almost there. This is entitled As Faith Should Be. So res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. I believe in magic. My beliefs do not threaten your existence. They threaten my own. I will not serve you precious overtones with aggressive undertones. I neither have the power to save or condemn. I only desire the ability to love and exist. I refuse to create or rearrange additional hurdles before anyone running the race who also desires to simply love and exist. I do intend to raise the bar on my own individual behavior and treatment of others. I do hope to be more humble, disciplined, helpful, and patient than I was yesterday. I do plan to be more growth-oriented, healthy, and welcoming of strangers with each passing day in a world set against such things. I believe I cannot do this thing called life on my own. I believe I'm far enough from perfect I need constant help. I believe I'm part of something much larger than just myself, which speaks to me through visions, dreams, songs, and prayers, which shapes me through experiences, convictions, circumstances, and parables, which teaches me through nature, the cosmos, creatures, and other people, which loves me through the written and spoken word of poetry, which holds me in my reading, shows me in my broken silence, and lets me go in my freedom. So my faith is in letting you go in your freedom. My faith is in sitting beside you in your grief, helping you in your loss, serving you in your need, encouraging you in your journey, celebrating you in your triumphs, mourning with you in disasters, hoping with you in your dreams, and loving you in your life. My faith is in showing gratitude for all things and relentlessly pursuing the wonder, for there was once a little boy who used to believe in magic, and there is now someone who stands where he stood, trying to become a man who would have rescued him. And although I'm still in need of rescue, my faith is in the magic still, as it should be. Thank you. Last one. We're almost there. You've survived thus far. I believe you can make it through to the end. This is called Darkness. It was written for an open mic where the theme of the open mic was dark skies. And those at like Great Basin National Park are doing their best with limited budgets and things that are recently cut to preserve areas where dark skies are more easily able to be focused on. So this is called Darkness. There is a brief epigraph. There are truths that can only be learned in the dark. Clark Strand. Life is a constant conversation. To follow nature and return to nature is the cycle we are born knowing how to ride. And if we stay upright in motion long enough, we may even learn what the ride has to teach. Whether creating or consuming, I have been taught to start small. Twigs and sticks, needles and leaves already fallen, dead and down, as I've often been for some of my best writing. Pine cones and bits of bark gathered in a sun-faded, red, Rubbermaid, marine rope-handled barrel, sun-bleached remnants of the basin for ice-cold drinks at my parents' epic 4th of July parties. Silently collected as kindled tinder for the stone fire pit at my mother's new house since my dad passed. 11:11 a.m. start on the first day of spring, balled up sheets of paper printed with copies of society poems, judging rubrics of competitions past, even posters and to-do lists no longer relevant, crumpled and balled up on the ground as I have often been for some of my best writing. Once formulated ideas and goings-on, able to spark inspiration, now in retirement, able to ignite a blaze worthy of ambitious landscaping on a legal burn day in Northern California. In the beginning, we were given the sun and the stars to light our way home, later discovering fire once we had found it, to gather and warm by our inner circle as a ring around the pulsating flames. I want you to rid yourselves of everything artificial. I want you to turn the lights off, not just the ones on your phones, all of them. The ones overhead in the ceiling, the ones outside on the street lamps and the traffic signals. I want you to park all of the cars and shut the headlights, the dash lights and the dome lights. I don't want you to reach for the flashlight in your glove box or the lighter in your bag. I don't want you to open the fridge, the microwave, or the oven. I want you to leave the TV off, unplug the alarm clocks, and not even think about reaching for your favorite candles. Leave the laptop closed, the desk lamp off, and the night light out. Just listen. Roaring flames turn to a flicker, orange embers turn to ash. Really, listen. Not a single entity in the universe exists for itself alone, rather everything in relationship. Often we ask what when we should ask who. Often we ask how when we should ask why. In the layered boundaries, at the porous borders, hovering over the threshold held by the liminal spaces of effortless conversation, Mother Nature nurses us along by way of the Milky Way. This break between first and second rest, the overlap between awake and asleep, we find our way into clarity of vision, even with our eyes closed tightly shut, a deep state of conscious reflection in conversation with the universe and beyond. Whether making s'mores over a campfire's retirement years, telling ghost stories without maglite for the narrator, playing hide and seek with other kids we just met that evening in abandoned houses, watching fireworks after the races at the county fair, swimming in lakes secretly scared the fish will nibble our naked body, making out with our ravenous partner we hope will nibble our naked body. Covered up beneath a bed of stars, laying across a limp air mattress on the rooftop, absorbing rhythm and blues, jazz and hip-hop at the after party, dancing across the abyss until just before the break of dawn, ecstatically breathless at first light. Whether eating late-night food, taking tiny breaks to raucously laugh, watching silly, scary movies, cuddling in the comfortable silence, savoring sensual massages, soaking in a hot tub on the deck of the Alpine Lodge, stargazing, or deeply sleeping, we are improving those crucial one-on-one conversations, learning not to talk over each other. Sun goes down, bless you. Fire goes out. The darker it gets outside, the easier it is to focus on the shine you've been holding all along. When you finally realize the light which cannot be extinguished, unplugged, run out of batteries, put out, turned off, or lose its charge, has been within you the whole time, listening, whispering, guiding you home. Thank you for sharing with me.
Thank you, Jesse James Ziegler, for the marvelous pieces. Thank you for sharing them with us. We've now got about a 10-minute intermission. We've got some marvelous snacks in the manly room right back there. Feel free to help yourself. And in about 10 minutes, we'll meet back up here for the open mics part of our program. If you haven't signed up yet, the board is right out there by the entrance, so you can sign up for open mic if you'd like to read. And I encourage any of you who want to read to do so. We get to hear poems from some of us. I'd like to start off this second half with a poem I wrote about 30 years ago entitled, "Only People in Love Can See Unicorns." Only people in love can see unicorns. Don't you see them there? Don't you see the unicorn in the shadow of the tree over by the garden gate that leads down to the sea? Can't you see his twisted horn that shines so pearly white? Can't you see his gleaming eyes, the color of the night? Can you hear his bell-like voice as he calls to his mate? Can you hear her answer back as she comes through the gate? Only people in love can see unicorns. Can't you see them there? Yes, I can see the unicorns. I see them everywhere. And our first poet up is Kathy Bryce.
Thank you all for the opportunity to be here and for sharing the fabulous talent that you have shared with us all today. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be among so many gifted people. The poem I'm going to read, I wrote because I forgot to make a salad. My friend asked me to make a salad for an evening gathering of other friends for a dinner, and I forgot to make it. And she said, "Where's your salad?" And I said, "I forgot. Was I supposed to make a salad?" And she said, "Yeah." So I didn't make the salad. So the next time we had a gathering, she said, "I can't trust you to make a salad, so just write a poem." And I said, "Okay, I'll write a poem." So this poem was read on Easter among a group of dear friends who in this last year have lost spouses, partners, and beloved pets. And so this is what I wrote for that Sunday time together. It's called, "Can We Imagine This?" We wonder, how are they? What is their existence? Are they okay? Are we given a clue when we read the words of the ancients? For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now we know in part, but then shall be known even as we are known. Ours, a fogged window, an incomplete picture. Is there so much more to see, to understand, and who sees it? Could it be that those who've gone through the glass finally see what is? Not as we now see through our cataract-dimmed eyes, but clear-eyed. They finally see without distortion. Not a place where they have gone, but a new way of being. Society without competition, without hoarding, or foolish attempts at ascendancy. Where currency is discarded for generosity, punishment softening into benevolence, power exchanged for service, exclusion replaced by acceptance, shame transformed into dignity, contraction exploding into fullness, injustice exchanged for truth, harsh criticism transformed into mercy, pain giving way to healthy thriving, and disability discarded for dancing. Is this what they see? Is this what we see so dimly? Can we imagine our loved ones and the myriads who've gone before swimming in this sea of love? As we sorrow, as we grieve, as we hurt, can we imagine this?
Next up, we have Liz Knott.
Yes, the backstory. I was watching Johnny Carson, and he was introducing the Elko poets way back before they became very famous and everyone goes there. And I heard reincarnation, somewhat the right thing to follow what we just heard, reincarnation, but a different spin on it, by Wallace McCrae. What is reincarnation? A cowboy asked his friend. Why, it's something that happens when your life comes to an end. They comb your hair and wash your neck and clean your fingernails and lay you in a padded box away from life's travails. Can't see. Now this box and you goes in the ground in a hole that has been dug into the ground. And this here reincarnation starts once you're planted neath the mound. Pretty soon, the clods melt down along with the box and who are inside. And then you're just beginning on your transformation ride. And then one day, some grass will grow upon that rendered mound until one day on your moldered grave, a little flower is found. Then, say by chance, a horse should wander by and graze upon that flower that once was you and now has become your vegetative power. Now the posy that horse done ate, along with all the rest of his feed, becomes fat and bone and muscle, essential to the steed. But some is consumed that he cannot use, and so it finally passes through and just lays there on the ground, this thing that once was you. And then I seize this on the ground, and I wonder and I ponder at this object that I found, and I begin to think about reincarnation and life and death and such, and I come away concluding, old pal, you ain't changed that much. You can see why I liked it.
Oh, yeah. Next up, we have Jane Chapman. You want to hold?
Oh, that's okay. I did not write this poem. I found it actually in a book that was published in 1920. It was, I think, one of many books that my parents bought, probably from a traveling salesman. And they have books and stories, and this one has survived. Anyway, this and it should be October because this is kind of an October poem. It's called Judging by Appearances. An old jack-o'-lantern lay on the ground. He looked at the moon man, yellow and round. The old jack-o'-lantern gazed and he gazed, and still as he looked, he grew more amazed. Then said jack-o'-lantern, "How can it be that fellow up there looks so much like me? I suppose he must be a brother of mine, and somebody cut him too from the vine. He looks very grand up there in the sky, but I know just how 'twill be by and by. He's proud of his shining, I have no doubt, but just wait until his candle goes out.
Debbie Christ is going to come forward and share a poem with us and treat us to another piece on the harp following her poem.
I'm first of all a musician and grew up playing guitar and singing lyrics to it. So I've got the poetry thing there, but that's not my first strength. Last year I had a piece of harp music already prepared and couldn't find a poem to go with it, so I wrote one. This year I didn't have poetry or harp music, but I had a theme. We went to South America in November, December, and in December we took a boat ride and were fortunate enough to have calm enough seas to land on Cape Horn. Cape Horn is the southernmost piece of land, so the winds go all the way around the globe till they hit that again, and it's kind of rough down there. We were on a boat, and 60% of the time they can land, 40% of the time they can't, and they always put, go take a little rubber Zodiac into the shore, and they put two people in the water to hold it. And the day we did it, it was two female bartenders sitting in the water trying to hold the boat from flipping over. Anyway, so I wanted to write something about Cape Horn because so many of the sailors that went by it when the sailing ships would meet their end by the ships being destroyed by the winds and the waves. So I went online and I found two poems, one of which I was familiar with before because we were able to climb up to a monument there, and there's big sheets of sheet metal with a shape cut out of the center in the shape of an albatross with its wings spread kind of like this. And there's a rock with a poem, in Spanish of course, this is South America, right beside it talking about the albatross. And the poem references all those people that had died rounding the Cape Horn come back as the albatross. And of course, if you read the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, the albatross is a good thing on the ship. So my first poem is about Cape Horn by Adam Sadia, and it talks about the sailors from the 1800s. And the second one is the English translation, I'm not doing the Spanish, of the albatross poem by the monument. I still didn't have music. I looked for something I could play on the harp. I found a few interesting things. I checked classical music, I checked hard rock, I checked everything. Couldn't find something that suited me. So for the very first time in my life, I wrote music to go with words. And music is kind of like poetry because when you hear a poem, you hear words and they give you an impression in your head which may be different than somebody else, but it's how you perceive it. Same thing with music. So, and I just finished this yesterday, so hopefully I remember all of it. I will give it a chance. Okay, my first poem is Cape Horn by Adam Sadia. They lifted anchor, spread the sails, quit the shores where they were born, bound for spice isles from doubtless tales by the way of far Cape Horn. Rough seamen, fortune-bound to trade in gold and peppercorn, and woo a grass-clad island maid, but first around Cape Horn. They crossed the far equator, seared in emerald tropics born, on friendly breezes till they neared the South Sea's gate, Cape Horn. To brave it was to challenge fate, taste death perhaps and mourn. To pass it was to celebrate surviving feared Cape Horn. It rose above the frigid waves, stark, jagged, and forlorn, The crag, foremost of sailors' graves, the ends of lands, Cape Horn. There, frigid crest soared, wild and crashed, in frothing chaos torn by howling, sleeting gales that blast unceasing round Cape Horn. They buffeted the ship about until its masts were shorn, its hull split and its crew spilled out, more blood to slake Cape Horn. Unmoved, the crag's bleak face stared down upon the doomed with scorn. Freezing, they gasp, about to drown, and glimpse their last, Cape Horn. The crag could only spurn their wails, so far and lonely worn, so long by hostile seas and gales, the bleakly dubbed Cape Horn. Fixed in eternal storm and cold, night with no hope of morn, it envies those whose fates unfold. Before it, cursed Cape Horn. And then this is the poem of the Albatross on Cape Horn. It's written by Sarah Weil. And this is the English translation of what the Spanish says. I am the albatross that waits for you at the end of the earth. I am the forgotten soul of the dead sailors who crossed Cape Horn from all the seas of the world. But they did not die in the furious waves. Today they fly in my wings to the eternity in the last trough of the Arctic wind. So my song is called Souls of Cape Horn. And as you listen for waves, listen for the excitement of sailors starting on their journey, listen for a familiar sea shanty. The sailors frequently passed through doldrums where the wind didn't blow, and they sat there for as long as the wind didn't blow. Then the storm at Cape Horn and the birth of the albatross. I wrote most of it. I have a quote from Judy Collins' song, Albatross, at the end of it.
Thank you, Debbie. That was amazing. And I'd like to finish this off tonight with my favorite poem from Robert Frost. It's not winter, but this one, the last two lines of this always ring true for me. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods are these? I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his wood fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the wood and frozen lake, the coldest evening of the year, he gives his harness bell a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of gentle wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Thank you all for coming.